I'm accompanied by my 12-year-old dog, Eve, and we're here to talk to you a little bit about pain in dogs. Now, most people assume, oh, if my dog's in pain, I'm going to know it. I'm going to see they're going to be screaming or limping. There's going to be some external, very visible sign of pain. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there's also signs of pain that are very subtle that we can miss. And in fact, there was a veterinary study done recently that looked into this and found that actually 1 in every 5 dogs is suffering from pain. And this is not visible pain. This is hidden pain that we actually as owners can miss. And this is something that's very near to my heart, and I would like to help people find relief from. It's actually a main component of the work that I do, the energy healing work that I do, is to help release the deep-seated pain and the pain that's not resolved by medication or traditional methods that stays kind of underneath the surface, kind of like when we have kind of that chronic aching that's deep down and we can never really quite figure out what's going on, and it really does bother us on a regular basis. So today I just wanted to go over a few of the more subtle signs, and some of you may know all these signs already, but for viewers who may not, I wanted to cover some of the other signs of pain in dogs. So there's about 9 that I want to cover today. The first is kind of reluctance to being touched. So if you ever and this will be very specific to your dog because some dogs don't really like being touched anyways, but if you have a dog that likes being touched and then all of a sudden you notice that you go to pet them and they kind of move away, or there's a little bit of a reluctance. It doesn't have to be a huge movement. It can just kind of be where you're touching them and you kind of see a little movement. That's enough to give you a clue that maybe there's something going on in that area, that there is kind of a little, oh, I really don't want you to, that kind of bothers me. And of course, as the condition worsens, the pain will grow and you will see more visible signs. But pay attention when you're petting your dog or when you're touching them. If you kind of see just a little bit, just like that, just a little tiny movement can be enough to indicate that there's something going on. Vocalization is also another outward way of them showing pain. Obviously, this is more visible, and we usually catch on this, is more yelping, or when they go to lay down or stand up and they kind of wince a little bit. They make a little bit of a noise, like when they're moving from a standing to a lying position, or even during an activity, or when they're trying to get comfortable, if they're shifting around and you kind of hear a little kind of grunt or noise. That is also vocalization, much quieter one that can indicate that there's something going on as well, and there's some pain underneath there. The next is shaking or trembling. Now, sometimes we see a dog sitting and they're shaking and you think, oh, they're scared or they're cold, but this can also be a symptom of pain in dogs, and sometimes again can be quite subtle, just a little kind of a movement, or even just on a limb. If they're sitting there and all of a sudden you see one of their limbs just kind of trembling just a little bit like that, that can also be a sign of pain, and that it's causing kind of a little bit of a tremor. Now, obviously, there are other things that can cause these type of tremors, like poisonings and other things like that. But all other conditions aside, if there's nothing else going on, your dog hasn't gone into anything, and you notice these little tiny tremors or shaking, or if they're sitting there and they have a limb that shakes a little bit, also a sign that there could be some underlying pain, unresolved pain there. And obviously any kind of issues with mobility. So if you notice that they're starting to run less or run differently or have issues jumping or lying down, or it takes a little bit longer to lie down or stand up. We always think of this as sometimes just old age, but it can also be a sign of some underlying painful condition that's going on. So really watch your dogs and become a really good observer and notice if any kind of changes in what the normal is for your dog, as far as how they move around and how they shift when they're lying down and how they get up and stand down, because this can be a first indication that there's something else going on underneath. Another thing is heavy breathing or panting. Now, panting is normal behavior when they're really active or if it's really hot outside. Now, this is something that Eve does. This is not Eve, this is Izzy. Hello, Izzy. Izzy wanted to be on camera. She's quite a princess. Eve does this quite regularly. Eve has arthritis, and sometimes she can be sitting in a cool room on the floor, and she will just start heavily panting for no reason. And this can mean, well, I know with her that it means that her arthritis is flaring up, and I need to take a look at it. But pay attention to that all of a sudden, if your dog is sitting there, hasn't been active, hasn't been running around, and is just kind of panting excessively, and there's really no other reason for them to be panting, this is also a sign of pain. That's how they externalize pain and try to calm. It's something that helps calm their nervous system. So another thing to keep an eye out for. Another issue, which I also have with Eve, is excessive grooming. Now, excessive grooming is really just like licking one area over and over again. If Eve decides to come over, I'll show you on her legs, she has like brown stains. So if they have white fur and they lick a lot, you might notice that the fur starts to change colors and gets kind of a little orangey brown. That's because they're kind of licking one area over and over again. Now they do this, this is instinctive, and they do this when they have a wound, to kind of help soothe themselves and when something's hurting them. And it can also be anxiety. But again, if you have a dog that's not normally anxious, that doesn't have a visible wound, and you notice them repeatedly licking one area, it tends to happen a lot on the limbs. You'll see it on the paws or around the joints, like here, or in the armpit area here. Thank you for being a good model, Izzy. These are areas where you might notice all of a sudden you'll start seeing what looks kind of like tear stains, that brownish, orangish color. And that is a sign of pain in that area. And the thing is, that's tricky about that is that sometimes it's actually that particular limb that's hurting them, or it could be that it's just the nerve from another area that's traveling down there, and so it's kind of displaced. So don't always assume that because they're licking their inner arm that that's exactly where the pain is originating from. It could be originating from somewhere else, and the nerve endings or the nerve bundles are firing down that limb, or it's an area that they can't reach, and so then they will just do a displacement licking in another area. So don't always assume it's right where you see it, but that is definitely a sign of possible underlying pain that hasn't been resolved. Another thing to look for is any kind of change in eating or drinking patterns, excessive drinking, less drinking, not eating as much. A lot of times if they stop eating or eating less or having trouble eating, it could be that it's some sort of dental pain, something related to the gums or the teeth, but not necessarily. If they're in pain, just like when we're in pain, when you're really focused on it, you just don't really want to eat or drink like you normally do. And so it's kind of the same with them. So keep an eye on any kind of changes in eating and in drinking. And then finally, the last thing is any kind of antisocial behavior. So just like us, if you have a headache, the last thing you want to do is go to a party. Well, the same with them. If they're not feeling good, if there's some sort of unresolved pain, they just want to be left alone. They want to go off. You'll see them kind of go into another room by themselves or go to the end of the yard. If you have other pets, they want to stay away from them, or they'll kind of get a little snippy and want to keep to themselves. Also, a really strong indication that there might be some underlying pain there that you need to check into. So I hope that this video was helpful and gave you some clues as to how you can determine if your dog might be in pain that you don't know is currently happening in your pet, and will help you on the path to helping resolve that. And again, this is something that is really close to my heart, and I work very, very closely with a lot of pet parents with dogs who have unresolved pain to help release those blockages and allow the dog to heal themselves and get rid of those underlying chronic aches and pains that they have in their lives. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button and share, and please subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.